Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. We've got a brand new report from Bank of America. The analyst, Mariana, who has covered Palantir since really the past couple of years, said it was a buy at $6, has kind of been with the cause since then. Recently just reviewed AIPCon. So they put out a 2-page note just yesterday on what they felt about AIP. Top level, still have a $18 price target. Currently right now, the stock is at 15. They initiated that when the stock was at 13. And still have a buy rating on the stock. So I want to go through what their analysis was on AIP. They first had 4 different sections talking about how they felt AIP was important or what the important things they learned from AIP. And then I want to talk about the customer presentations and the short summaries they have on why those presentations were important. So maintain rating buy, price target $18, price currently at $15.33. Let's start off with the first part of what they had to say, which is the go-to-market shift with an AIP. It's not now this kind of 12-month pilot in terms of just getting a customer and trying to have them on for 12 months, but rather it's a 5-day type of workshop, which is one of the things that they are working on to make it a little bit better. So CEO Alex Karp kicked off the second AIPcon, announcing that since the June launch of AIP, it now supports 150 customers and grew 50% month over month. And that is true. They had 100 customers using the actual platform August 7th in earnings. We're in September 14th when we had AIPcon. So 50 more customers is a 50% month over month growth to 150. To accelerate new customer adoption even further, Palantir is launching an AIP bootcamp. We can see the 5-day bootcamp covering one, applying AI to operations, 2, developing use cases, 3, onboarding and training users as a major improvement in Palantir's customer acquisition strategy. I would agree with this. I mean, honestly, their customer acquisition strategy came from a lot of word of mouth, Karp closing deals, maybe the sales force, going back and forth trying to do some stuff. But the actual boot camp where you have the customers in one place because you got people to sign up for the boot camp and then you sell them right there, it's not the worst strategy in the world, in my opinion. A lot of software companies do the same thing. Previously, Palantir relied on extended trial runs with intense support from Palantir's forward deployed engineers. We see the new strategy as having a greater ability to scale, capture that increased demand, and bring less capital intensive if a company ultimately chooses not to pursue the project. So if you have a forward deployed engineer and they go to a company and they help them and they build out a custom suite of software solutions and the company says they don't want to buy it, it is upfront of, I would argue hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars for Palantir to even get to that customer. Obviously, the payoff of that customer is big, which is why they're willing to pay that. But if this could reduce the customer acquisition costs through a bootcamp and just get people to immediately understand what's the use of the product. I mean, even Karp said he rolled up his sleeves and he went to a bunch of boot camps doing this stuff. This is what you need to accelerate adoption and actually capitalize on that demand. Okay, second point they had about government and defense acceptance rates. Karp noted that Palantir continues to aggressively push government and defense customers to adopt the AIP platform. Earlier this week, Palantir attended meetings with the White House to discuss the potential benefits and risks of AI, which would help inform coming legislation. Palantir joined the ranks of Adobe, Amazon, Anthropic, Google, IBM, Meta, Microsoft, NVIDIA, OpenAI, and Salesforce in signing a pledge to follow standards for safety, security, and trust to manage the risks that AI imposes. We view Palantir's attendance at the White House event and taking the pledge as a positive signal, potentially opening the door for defense and government use of AIP. We covered this last week on the channel as well. I think this is incredibly important. Ultimately, at the end of the day, Palantir needs to be in these meetings with the White House, no matter what administration it is, because either they're shaping the regulation, they're part of the regulation, or they have the potential to get government clients because their AI platform is pivotal to the ultimate regulation or strategy that the government has, especially in the United States in regards to AI. So obviously the US wants to be an AI leader. The UK wants to be an AI leader. Palantir needs to be in those meetings and make sure that they are one of the core topics of discussion, given, they are one of the leading AI companies in the world. Third, Palantir remains confident in their moat surrounding IP. Management is confident that their first mover advantage remains resilient and the incentives for competition to enter the market have diminished. Karp noted to build a competitor to Foundry today would take years, while Palantir could focus on adding new tools, enhancements, and adding more value to their existing platform. This is true. On the keynote, Karp did say and he said this many times before in the past, if you wanted to build something like a Foundry, it would take 4 to 5 years to actually even get it to be good, versus what we can add to the platform now that the platform is ready and can enhance it from there. Karp labeled the early days as Palantir as an ugly duckling phase due to the level of difficulty involved in the development process early on and for customers to refine their data. And that's true. I mean, if you had bad data and you didn't have bad tools to be able to make sense and interpret of that data, you would just, have a pile of crap. Companies that took the risk on the ugly duckling products early are now seeing the benefits as Palantir's products have evolved, creating more value and capabilities for their customers. Final point, they said extensive customer focus. Your top competitor uses AIP. I thought this part was really interesting in the note. As is customary from the previous Foundry and AIP cons, real customer use cases were a focal point. Executives from Eaton, CPKC, Sintra, and HCA Healthcare demonstrated their AIP use cases and the positive impacts on their businesses. Other customers, including NYSE, Cone Health, Intuit, Genpact, had masterclasses to demonstrate AIP uses to prospective customers after the presentation. We see the demos, customer presentations, and long list of F500 logos, Fortune 500 logos, shown throughout the presentation as sending potential customers the message, your top competitor uses AIP, so why wouldn't you? I think that was a really important note, and then we'll get into what they felt about the actual customer presentations as well. But look, that makes sense to me. At the end of the day, if United is using it, Southwest should think of using it, right? If Verizon is using it, AT&T should think of using it. An AIP platform, from what I understand at AIPcon, is truly the tooling infrastructure, and we're going to go deeper and deeper into this over the next couple of weeks to understand it at a broader level, for why Palantir has a shot to transform an enterprise. If you don't have that infrastructure, you don't have the ability for LLMs or models or any type of AI-based operational workflows you're using to actually deliver value. So if AIP is the bridge that actually gives value to the content you're providing within the company and the answers you're trying to get, and that's what the presentation showed, then it is something that, again, I think can be used by the entire world. The question is if Palantir is going to be able to execute and get all those people on it. So here are their summaries of the presentations, and I think this is actually good for those that missed AIPcon or just want a better recap of it. This kind of shows you why these customers are important, why they're using Palantir. Eaton, managing part shortages in real time. Eaton discussed how the company employs AIP to build a supply chain digital ecosystem. Eaton, an intelligent power management company, handles over 32 million parts from 300 plants. Prior to working with AIP, the company had to manually identify supply chain shortages and had little to no visibility into the revenue at stake as a result of these shortages and challenges. Eaton now uses Palantir's framework to enable real-time connections between enterprise resource planning decisions, ERP, and supply chain events. The platform allows Eaton managers to see full lists of part shortages across the company and systematically prioritizes solutions to optimize revenue. I'm probably going to do a reaction to Eaton's AIPcon. I did the one to CPKC, but Eaton had a great one. The presenter was really good at just explaining in detail why they're using Palantir's platform. So that one, you should just think of it as like supply chain digital ecosystem, use Palantir and use Foundry and AIP and just transform the business. CPKC, we did a reaction video to this one yesterday. CPKC highlighted the uses of AIP to optimize railroad network management decisions to mitigate disruptions, delays, and excess times in yards. Dwell, the amount of time a train car spends in yards, can create challenges for railroad networks, as excessive dwell can lead to a domino effect of delays across the network and can significantly impact the cost of operations. CPKC uses AIP to allow its services design and operation team to forecast, dwell, and problem solve proactively. Upcoming weather patterns and maintenance events can all be forecasted, and trains can be rerouted or interchanged as needed. So far, the model has been trained on existing data, and real-time metrics are being integrated into the model. This was one of the best presentations as well, because a railroad company optimizing their dwell and the amount of delay they have in terms of getting from one place to another using Foundry and AIP, that's special. And that model getting trained over and over again on real-time data and events and alerts that happen every single day is also, I think, very exciting for Palantir. Sintra, visualizing traffic data to pave the way for smart cars. Sintra detailed how the company leverages AIP and Foundry to propel its work in the smart road space. Sintra is a global leader in transformation infrastructure, and the recent emphasis on smart technology and smart cars have created the need for updated infrastructure. Using AIP and Foundry, Sintra created AIVA, the smart roads of the future, or platform of the future. Using traffic patterns, weather, pedestrian movements, and accident data, Avia has created 12 operational use cases that enable drivers to operate their vehicles more safely. AIP has greatly increased the speed in which data is translated into actionable items, which is critical for drivers on the road. In the future, Sintra is looking to expand its AIP use cases to better understand traffic patterns and ultimately more effective and efficient roads. At the end of the day, data in the context of traffic, I think, is incredibly important. We know this from Wejo, which is one of the companies that used Palantir in the past, and how they were operationalizing data, how they were looking at insurance, they were looking at traffic. There was a lot of different use cases to integrate with different OEMs and car manufacturers to really have a smart understanding of the road and then be able to make decisions based on that. And all of that is a large data problem that you need to be able to integrate into an ontology and then make sense of using some type of AI model. And then finally, HCA Healthcare. HCA Healthcare discussed 3 critical use cases for Palantir's AIP platform for healthcare workers at hospitals. AIP has allowed for efficient scheduling and intelligent staffing based on nurse preferences, patient needs, and unit capacity. The second phase of the program inputs reality and adjusts and optimizes plans based on real-time information. For example, the system can update schedules and allocations to account for higher than expected patients in a particular unit or unexpected illnesses among the nurses. And more recently, AIP has been used to automate and optimize shift handoffs. This has resulted in better patient care and ensures the incoming shift of nurses has all the relevant patient information. The people that I talked to that work in the healthcare industry told me that the optimizing of shift handoffs is a really big deal, because if you got one person leaving at 4 a.m. and the nurse that replaces them at 4 a.m. has to take care of the patient from 4 to 10 a.m. to make sense of that patient, even if they don't know that patient or they're unfamiliar with that patient, and to immediately get all the data, everything they need to know to be able to make sure that that patient is taken care of, that's a big deal, man. That's like a really big deal. And if you ever have someone in the hospital that's close to you, a lot of times people have an apprehensive relationship to nurses because they feel like either the nurses don't take care of them correctly, the nurses don't care enough about them, the nurses are treating them with disrespect. I mean, I'm not saying all nurses are like this. I'm saying people have the perception, because they're so close to their family, that if you think a nurse isn't taking care of someone correctly, you can get really upset about it and angry and all this stuff. And generally most nurses try their best and they try to be good. But if they had software, if they had technology that could just make their life easier, because a nurse's job is tough, right? Knowing all these patients, knowing when to have to give them medicine, having to answer as soon as they ring a bell in their room to solve a problem. To have technology to be able to ease their mind in terms of the information they need to grasp to be able to help a patient, that's a big deal. And in my opinion, that's a very big deal. I was speaking as someone who had a couple grandparents that were in the hospitals in December 2022. It was tough seeing what they were going through. And it was also really tough on the nurses having to come back and forth and just having more information and being able to optimize on that stuff that matters. So if something like technology, a simple product in a hospital, could really automate that, make that easier, make the scheduling of all that easier, I mean, the possibilities for healthcare are just absolutely gigantic. In a couple of weeks, we're going to know, not even a couple of weeks, in 9 days, we should be able to know if we get this NHS contract. So I think the HCA Healthcare was also very important for Palantir. Overall, Mariana seemed pretty excited by the AIPCon. She said that everything seems to be going the way it needs to be going. Obviously, the customer adoption is going very well. If Palantir continues this growth rate, we're going to have close to 300, if not more than 300 customers by the end of the year that are using AIP. And again, customers meaning they're not paying for AIP, but it's integrated in their system. So eventually they will be paying for AIP. And then the question becomes, how much more can we scale going from there? So those are my thoughts. Thank you so much for listening and watching. Let me know what you thought about Palantir's AIPCon, and I will see you in the next one.